So this idea is still fresh on my mind because I'm just coming back from a sociology class where I talked about this. But I read a book by Pascal Boyer a while back called Minds Make Societies, and he talks about why is it that ethnic communities break out into ethnic conflict, despite the fact that in most parts in the world you'll find ethnic communities coexisting peacefully side by side. Like what makes them burst into conflict? And his answer was scarcity, when the scarcity hits. And I resonated with this idea because when the scarcity hits, we jump to the first salient or obvious differences between us, between peoples, to divvy up scarce resources. And there's a lot of psychological research to back this up. For example, even the minimal groups paradigm, like the studies done by Tajfel, where he would put people into groups based on the flip of a coin, heads versus tails, and then people would start allocating the goods unequally, like between their in-group versus the out-group, right? Unfair treatment, just based on groups formed based on the flip of a coin, these minimal groups, based on the flimsiest or most tenuous of circumstances, right? And there's a lot of studies that have gone in this vein. How even you can prime people, like put their self-identity under threat and they become less altruistic, things like these, right? And I think we underestimate the extent to which a lot of our moral dilemmas are actually economic at heart. They're based on scarcity, right? So, and I think people wrongly jump to higher ideals like love and world peace, love your neighbor, shit like that, as if that's the answer to these moral dilemmas. When I think the answer is more economic, or the problem is more economic. It's about scarcity, right? So it's like when you want to cure stuff like racism or xenophobia, uh, shit like that, it's not necessarily that love, that we need more love, right? Love can be quite parochial. It can be quite narrow in its circle of concern. And I think that circle of concern depends on how much you feel yourself to be under threat. Because when there's enough to go around, when you don't feel the threat, when you don't feel the scarcity, it's easy to be loving. It's easy to be kind. It's easy to preach these ideals. But then as soon as the scarcity hits and there's not enough to go around, then you see people resort to their most basest animalistic instincts, like the survival mode kicks in. And it's funny, like in class, when I was talking about this, the teacher started chiming in about COVID, or how people started hoarding these sanitary supplies. They started hoarding toilet paper when the floods kicked in here in Canada. So, or even in Costco, like how people were bumping into each other, like when there was a sale on Godiva chocolates she was talking about. I think we really underestimate, because we haven't felt this scarcity to such a great level. We don't experience it that much in a first world country like Canada. At least I don't, and the people around me don't, right? And so we underestimate how much that scarcity would affect us when it hits. And I think a lot of these world issues where there's a scarcity of goods, like immigration problems and shit, I don't think they're solved by resorting to higher ideals like love and shit. I think I, I think it's a cause for almost like pessimism or some shit. Like war is gonna break out. And even we're not above this. And here in Canada, like we have a history of, like the way we treated the Japanese during World War II, the way we were thinking about Koreans, the propaganda that was there when we felt ourselves to be under threat from Korea. Yeah, I think, yeah, so